Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm here.
Yeah, that sounds right. I just finished a weekend-long Mission Impossible movie marathon.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to take your face off right now and be somebody completely different on the other side.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible, they do that constantly.
You know what I'm about to say.
That you are somebody completely different on the other side.
No.
And you also know the truth about my past.
Though after I say the phrase, you're gonna wish I was somebody else. I've never seen any of the Mission Impossible movies.
Oh, Neil.
Not one. Not a single solitary one.
Oh my God! It's funny at this point. It's like a bit we're doing for people out there.
I know.
Like it's crazy. There are 7 of them, with one more on the way, which supposedly is Tom Cruise's last one. And I pray it is. I pray it is. And I love the first one. The first one is a near perfect movie, in my opinion. It is like there's very like if you can find fault with that movie, more power to you. I think Mission Impossible, the first Mission Impossible by Brian De Palma, is absolutely like a perfect movie. The second one is Trainwreck, that only had 45 pages of dialogue and was directed by John Woo. There's just doves everywhere and kickflips for no reason and all sorts of insanity with like heavy metal, that theme, that dun 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 dun, but it's like somebody like going crazy on a guitar at the end, like the whole time. It's fucking nuts. Third one is J.J. Abrams.
Okay.
Bad guy is Philip Seymour Hoffman, amazing bad guy, but not really the best movie, but Philip Seymour Hoffman's great. Fourth one's Ghost Protocol. That's Brad Bird. That's my favorite of the newer ones. My all-time favorite is the first one. Fifth one is Fallout. That has Henry Cavill in it. Then the sixth one is... No, I'm wrong. Fifth one is Rogue Nation. Sixth one's Fallout. Seventh one is Dead Reckoning Part 1. And then Dead Reckoning Part 2 has not come out yet. I'm going to say this. Don't binge it should you watch it. Like, watch one, watch 2... take a week off, okay? Don't watch them all in one weekend because, number one, they get increasingly long in size to the point where it's like, this is the reason I was late, is I'm like, oh my God, this movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes. Who would make a 2 hour and 45 minute spy movie? Like, who would be ballsy enough to do that? And this is just the first half of it. But yeah, there's also other things that you notice, like again, the face thing. They're constantly like wearing masks to like do the spy thing. Like Mission Impossible is all about the masks. Like you put a mask on, you look like the person, but somehow it also like copies everything else about them. And like they are constantly like there is like I told my wife, I was joking with her, I was like, I was waiting for a scene where like there was 3 people and they all pulled a mask off and they were somebody else, and then somebody else pulled a mask, and just in turn they all just kept pulling masks till they were the people that they started to be in the first place. Like that's what I was waiting for with all the masks. Like the second one has 7 mask pulls, no joke.
Oh God.
7 mask tricks. The second one is terrible. It's got like 7 mask tricks. Yeah, it's something else. They're not bad action movies. They really aren't. It's just to watch them all back to back, you definitely start to notice like stuff. Like I feel like if you want to do an honest trailer about them, watch them back to back to back, and then you'll be like, oh, I see everything.
Yeah, I think that was like the same feeling that I had towards the Planet of the Apes movies, the recent ones.
I betcha.
I
haven't watched those.
Yeah, I had never seen any of them before, so I went and first watched the remake, the 2001, whatever that one was.
Oh, that one was terrible. The one with Tim Burton? With Mark Wahlberg? With Mark Wahlberg that ends in that insane with, like, Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah. Not necessarily great. I heard that there was a twist, but somehow I managed to avoid what it was for all of these years.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, Oh, that was a choice. That was definitely a choice that was made by someone. And then I went through and watched the recent saga again. Or not again, but
did you watch any of the old Charlton Heston ones?
No.
Because from what I understand, the new ones that have come out are all directly related to the actual Charlton Heston ones. They fill in the story beats.
So, weirdly enough, there's a channel that I watch, Screen Crush, where I get a lot of my Marvel movie stuff from.
Right.
But they occasionally do videos on other things. And when the new movie came to theaters, they did a recap of the entire everything, all of the Apes movies, and covered all of those. And yeah, it was apparently there was stuff that was either left on the cutting room floor or completely borrowed from or fill in the gaps from the old movies.
Right.
To kind of put things into perspective with the newer ones. But to get back to the crux of it, I watched those movies and I didn't binge them so much. I watched one a week, I believe it was. And I still feel like the new one that just came out in the theaters, it's not I enjoyed the movies, but I also am not I need to go see the new one in the theater.
Right.
But when it comes out for free somewhere, I'm going to be all about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to see the last one now, but at the same time, just this weekend has both, I'm yeah, Mission Impossible, and by the end, I'm I don't think I ever want to see Tom Cruise's face again. Just the amount of content. It's also 7 movies. It's 7 goddamn movies. You don't think about that. It's 7 movies over 30 years. The first movie came out in 96. 96 was the first Mission Impossible. So it's it's a big undertaking. A big undertaking.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good. It's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zach Wright with Old Man Gaming. You, dear listener, for whatever reason, have decided to tune into another Horrible Gaming Podcast. I am not alone. Usually I'm never alone. With me is...
Neil, a.k.a. Tiny Wizard.
I've been waiting for that. You guys found that, and then you haven't used it.
I forgot about it.
For weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Yes, Neil, a.k.a. Tiny Wizard. We are back with another episode. I don't know what we're going to do next week. Just a heads up, Neil has to take next week off. So we're going to have to figure something out. I'm not exactly sure yet. But we're back this week, and this is the big one. Because this week... We've seen all the not quite E3 stuff so far, with the exception of Ubisoft with Ghost tomorrow morning. We are recording this Sunday. It will be out by the time this comes out, but not by the time we are recording this. But let's face it, Ubisoft is just going to be Assassin's Creed, Assassin's Creed, Assassin's Creed. And
Star Wars one time.
And Star Wars, right. It'll be Assassin's Creed, Star Wars, which they already showed a teaser for that. Assassin's Creed, Star Wars. Then they're going to be please play Skull and Bones, and then they'll go away. That's it. So let's, but we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about our feelings about it. But first, we got to do fan interaction, and even before that, we got to thank the people who make this possible. Behind our ugly mugs, you are seeing a custom graphic that was provided by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this show and all of the shows here at Old Man Gaming is provided by the man who makes the music. My brother, Nick Van Sliders, we thank him for that. We'll be right back with fan interaction.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that brings us to Fanteraction. That's where we talk to you guys. We answer your questions wherever we see them. It is our first segment, our most important segment. So before we get into talking point, before we get into anything, we've got some things to read. Starting at the top with William Hohen. Hi! Exclamation point. Can't really think of a stupid weapon, but one I did really like is the Lunar in Ninja Gaiden. Thanks for the show. Cheers. And happy belated birthday, Stella. Hashtag day 98 of the strike. Well, sorry to hear about the strike. Do want to say I will inform Stella that you said happy birthday. She will be thrilled. And I played Ninja Gaiden for about 10 minutes and was like, this is not for me. I do not want to do this. I don't want to give my time to this. I barely beat the first nunchuck guy who was supposed to be the tutorial, and then I got to this dude on a horse, and he would just poon me for like 10 more minutes, and I was like, nope, there are other games. There are other games for me to play.
I remember being in college, and a friend of ours it was just like a savant of one of the Ninja Gaiden games. I can't remember what one it was, but he was like, he just always played on the hardest difficulty, and we're just like, what are you doing? Like, he just go for it. Like, yeah, I don't know what the deal is. Like, there's been games like that before. Like, I don't know if he's just really good at that game. When I played through the first Horizon, I think I've talked about this before. I played through on the ultra hard difficulty. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I mean, yeah, it was a little bit of a challenge. I got beat up sometimes, but it was fine. And then, like, there was a guy that I worked with at that point in time was like, you did what? And I'm like, yeah, it was fine. Like, no, you are lying. There's no way you did that. No, I did. It was nothing.
I very rarely crank difficulty on things. I don't turn the difficulty down. I usually just play it on normal. If it's a game that I truly love, I'll crank the difficulty up just to have a reason to go back to it. Streets of Rage I'm now playing on hard mode, which I wasn't before, you know. Mm-hmm. So, continuing on with the comments. Jason Todd Jason Todd is one of my favorite DC characters. Arkham Knight's Jason Todd wasn't Jason Todd. I wasn't incredibly fond of the Titans series iteration of Jason Todd, but he still was recognizably Jason Todd. I'm sorry, I just realized how many times he says Jason Todd.
I was a lot of times saying Jason Todd.
He's got two more in him. The thing in Arkham Knights doesn't feel Jason Todd, except in very superficial ways. And even a lot of the superficial stuff isn't Jason Todd. So, I didn't play it for very long. Sincerely, the Red Hood fan club. I do want to say, I love Red Hood. I like Jason Todd. I think he's a cool character. I think he is cool when he's done right. It is a tricky character to do right because he did start out as a villain. He was a villain, then he kind of goes good, and he's always got to ride that line, and it's hard to do that. It's hard to not push him one way or the other. I did not play Arkham Knights. By the time it came out, it was buggy as hell, and it looked kind of silly to me, so I did not go down that rabbit hole. That being said, I didn't actually like Arkham Knights, the Arkham Knight portrayal of Jason Todd either. So I don't think they've really done him justice in video games.
I remember, I mean, this is like, I guess, more so towards the DC end of things than the actual gaming end of things. I remember a couple years ago, Jensen Ackles did a cosplay for Halloween. Red Hood, and everybody was like, whoa, this looks good. I wonder if we're gonna get him in a movie, because I think I think that was when the Batman was getting ready to come out, and everybody thought he was gonna be in that.
Yeah, I do remember that too.
And now he's just Soldier Boy.
Yeah, who knows what we're gonna get from the Gunverse, so that's starting up soon. It's true. I won't be partaking in another jointed superhero universe again, personally, but hopefully it's good for everybody. Jason, the coolest weapon ever is the psychic umbrella from Redfall. Okay.
I mean,
agree to disagree.
It was a cool idea. It was a cool idea in a better game.
I don't think anything was cool in Redfall, so I don't know that I could super agree, but...
But what about Elevator?
Oh, the Elevator. I don't even want to talk about any of my character's powers. The fucking obnoxious Monster Hunter guy. Like, I still don't know what those electricity rods were doing. I still have no fucking idea what throwing those out were doing. Whether they were damaging or hampering the enemies in any way, shape, or form. Continuing, Jason says, we have smaller nukes in real life, but they're still not small arms weapons. The smallest instant death range I'm aware of is 520, I think that's feet? 520 feet. It was fired from 1.7 miles away. It looked like a larger RPG launcher on a tripod, but the RPG looked like a little nuke. That is interesting. That's very interesting. He actually did post a picture in Discord. Now I think that's what this was. Still, I think running around with a handheld nuke gun and shooting at guys you can see, it's probably not realistic in any shape or form.
Within 50 to 100 feet.
Jason, again, it's all Jason from here on out. The most egregious weapon in FF8 is the Angelo. Do you remember what or who Angelo was in FF8?
I did not get very far. I did not get very far.
Yeah, same here. I quit FF8 real fast. I mean, I didn't even like FF7, so I decided to dabble in FF8 because my brother bought it, so I played it for like maybe 10 minutes and was like, no, this is this again, only dumber. Jason then continued, I absolutely hate the Bustard Sword. Yeah, the Bustard Sword is terrible. Jason then continues, I'm sorry, you were about to say something.
I was just about to say, I actually remembered another stupid weapon.
Sure, bring it on.
From Final Fantasy X. Ball.
Ball?
Just Ball. Waka, the one party member, his weapon was his blitz ball.
Oh.
It made a soccer ball sound when it boinked off of people. It was great.
It's tricky, right? With the ball, there is the weapon in Rotwood that I love the most are balls. They're two big, like, giant-sized studded volleyballs that you, like, hurl into bad guys, and then if you or the bad guys or your friends hit them, they go flying again, and anything they run into, they do extremely large amounts of damage to. So you could, like, throw them in the battle and just start punching things, and then the balls kind of fly around and whack into things, and it's just such a cool, interesting take. But at the same time, it's a ball, so it's just it's really interesting that, like, there's such a fine line there. Let me see. Jason then continues. It was, parentheses, and as of this comment still is, end parentheses, a Skull and Bones free play week. That is over now. The sale for base game is over, but the deluxe, parentheses, $42.49, end parentheses, and premium, parentheses, $49.99, end parentheses, are still on for 12 more days, at least on Xbox. Again, I think both of those are too high a price for the game, especially with the amount of microtransactions in them. Honestly, the game's quality, in my opinion, is good and does deserve a premium price if they didn't have so many microtransactions in it. If there wasn't so many microtransactions. But there's a lot of microtransactions, and there's a lot of cosmetic microtransactions. There's tons of, like, there's 3 different battle passes. Like, I don't like the number of microtransactions in that game personally. So I think that the price should be lower because of the microtransactions personally.
Yeah, and we've talked about this ad nauseum multiple times, but I remember when Halo 5 did it. Mm-hmm. Halo 5 was a $60 game, and they jammed in microtransactions and even had the audacity to have a $100 microtransaction for loot boxes in the storefront. If you're going to go free to play, absolutely. Even if you're going to be like a $30 game, hey, man, I'm there for it. You guys got to make money. I understand. Right. It is what it is, especially with something like Skull and Bones. It's been in development for like almost a decade before it came out. You know, you got to make that money back. And let's say you could have gotten away to make it a free play game beforehand. Well, charging the $30 entrance fee. Fine, cool. But you know, a full price game with, well, basically full price game with microtransactions, and it's just a bridge too far.
Well, and for a second, let's take some of the things that Ubisoft has said about that game true. And let's say that its engagement, its actual player engagement, is very high. so that the players who actually purchase the game are playing it often and regularly, right? That means that people are buying into those microtransactions, and that means that you should reduce that price to get more people in. What that means is you have a quality game that if people can play it, will spend money on, but you're not letting them play it. You're putting a really high premium price on it, then telling us about the microtransactions, pointing out it's a games of service. And I think that's prohibiting people from buying it. I think it's not a good model here. I've said repeatedly, I think at its core, Skull and Bones is a good game. I stand by those comments. It is, in its core, a good game. It's just, it's got a lot of microtransactions, and I spent a lot of money on it. So I don't necessarily want to see that much microtransactions in it, you know?
Right.
So, and again, if you're not lying to us and your player engagement is good, you should be trying to get people in the door, not trying to, put a cost of, because people aren't going to know unless they play it. This kind of game was a joke and has been looked at like a joke. So the only way to to right that ship is to get people to play the game. And you can't get people to play the game with a $70 price tag on what the mass public believes is a joke,
Yeah.
Then finally, Jason finishes us off with shirts, which I responded 100%. Yes, you guys will be seeing the shirts ad. I am sorry, but I'm trying to make some money, so life. Life and facts. You will be seeing some shirts ads coming up. You can buy those shirts at wizardsrestbike.com. I may or may not, if I remember, include the link in the description below. We have one shirt in both white and black. It's an inverted model. Go buy it. They're fun. And from what I hear, they're comfortable. I haven't purchased one for myself. I know that's a bad sign. I want to. I just don't have money right now. So buy a shirt so that I can buy one of my own shirts.
You're really approaching it with that big co-host energy.
Oh, I am, right? Right. Okay, so we're going to pause. We're going to come back with a talking point. Talking point, very simple. The fuck fests have begun. And are, for the most part, almost over. We have seen just about everything everybody has to offer, except for Ubisoft. Ubisoft is going to be a big old circle jerk on Assassin's Creed, pardon my language. So we are going to talk about Keighley's Fuckfest, which is a Summer Games Fest. We're going to talk about some of the independent shows in between, and we're going to talk about the Xbox game show. I'm going to go ahead and say this. You're probably wondering, how are we going to get through all this all in our time? I don't have a lot to say about a lot of this stuff, because a lot of it was pretty boring, yawny to me. So, but we'll get into it. And we'll do that in just a second.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's that time of the month. It is the time of the month where E3 would happen, but E3 has died. So instead, we now have Jeff Keighley and his, double annual Fuckfest. This is the summer version of it. So all the game trailers come through him and IGN. That's right, IGN, the people who are supposed to do our impartial reviews. So we had that. We also had a bunch of other little shows that kind of correlate with it. This is basically E3 week without there actually being an E3. Yesterday we had we had Devolver's. We had the Devolver Direct. We also had a PC game show either tonight or yesterday, and then we had a couple of Steam shows go on. And then today, this morning, as of us recording it, which we are recording it on Sunday, we had the Xbox game show, which was the one that everybody was excited about. Tomorrow is the Ubisoft show. That's the only one we're not going to talk about here, because obviously, while we will be releasing this episode after, we are not going to be able to watch it in the now. I am going to be honest with you guys. I didn't watch these shows. I have no interest in watching these shows or wasting my time with them, which we'll talk about why. But before we get into the why of that, Neil did watch both these shows. So I want to let him talk about the presentation a little bit, and then be negative about that, I guess. So Neil, take it away.
Yeah, so the first one up was the Summer Game Fest, hosted by the one, the only, the friend not to gamers, Jeff Keighley. of course, you know, the usual trappings, the usual man coming out in sneakers with a freaking suit jacket on, being one of the dudes. One thing that I do have to mention about the show before we even get into the game part of it, because he hit this right from the jump.
Okay.
And I have to give him credit for it.
Let's do it.
Even if it's just a tiny bit of credit. He addressed the record layoffs in the industry.
Okay.
In fact, I don't know if you saw too, right outside the Expo Center that they were having the show, somebody put up a big old digital billboard of all of the studios that had been closed.
I did not
this
see
year.
that, and that's awesome.
Yes, somebody rented a billboard and put it right up out near the Expo Center for it. Jeff Keighley did come out and address it in the most soft, PR friendly way. To be fair, by going out of his way to point out a whole bunch of games that have been released so far this year or are upcoming that are done by indie studios as a result of the big AAA companies cutting staff constantly. I do think that was a good look on him for that overall. But, you know, it's game show's going to game show. So
right.
There are a bunch of announcements. I mean, we're not going to hit every single one of them, of course, because there are just so many of them. Now, at the Summer Game Fest, though, there were a couple ones that I think are very interesting. The one that they led with, the Lego Horizon Adventures,
right.
There were rumors of this floating around anyways. But it was officially announced that they're going to be having that. There's the Harry Potter Quidditch Champions. We finally got a little bit of gameplay of, you know, the thing that they carved out of the actual Harry Potter game so they could sell it as a separate thing.
Right.
But we're not going to talk about that.
Right.
Right. Personally, for me, Street Fighter 6 is getting Fatal Fury characters,
which is cool. It's a cool
my
crossover.
main man Bison is going to be a DLC character, which is fantastic.
Yeah, with the exception of the fact that you got to pay for him.
Yeah,
I think that I do want to cover a couple of things because you're getting a little bit ahead of me.
Yeah.
The presentation, him mentioning the closed studios. Well, first of all, I don't like Jeff Keighley, and my initial thought process here is he's using this to make himself the good guy. Like he saw something bad happening,
That's fair.
So he comes out and he immediately speaks about it to kind of make himself the good guy. That being said, I don't think it's fair to take away from him that he said something about it, because that's kind of a double-edged kind of bullshit way to look at it. If I'm just like, fuck him if he said something and fuck him if he didn't, you know? Because you know if he didn't say anything, I'd be up here saying, why didn't he say anything about it? So, like, it's tricky. Like I said, my initial knee-jerk response as a very crestfallen gamer is to think that he's somehow using this to just kind of like help his politics a little bit. But at the same time, I think saying something about it is good, whether or not he's using it for good reasons. You know, pointing this out, not just getting lost in like the ooh shiny of it, and pointing out that people lost their jobs and this is not fun and that's not good and people should be aware of it. I think it's a good thing. So I do want to say that. Lego Horizons. I want to talk about that for a sec. Who's that for? I mean, it does look... I'm excited for it. I think it's really cool and it's an interesting idea. But like Horizon is a very adult game centered around adult people. Lego games are very kid-friendly games centered around kid people. So, like, I don't know. Like, the only thing I'll say, I'm really excited for the game. I thought it looked really cool. But my only concern about it, I guess, is where does that find its audience, you know?
Yeah, I think it may very well be aimed towards those who, like, you know, who have children and like, oh, what is my parent playing? What is this? Oh, this looks cool. I want to do it too. Well, you can't. It's too complicated. And, you know,
Right.
here, this is for you now. Like, we can do it together.
Okay.
Yeah, I do feel like, though...
You at least see what I'm kind of saying there.
Yeah, I do feel like, though, Lego is now becoming synonymous with like a cash grabby sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like the repackage of licensed games. You remember back in the day, there used to be, anytime a movie came out, there was a video game tie-in that was basically just the movie, but as the game. Now it is, hey, here is successful thing, ... here is Lego version, so tiny humans can also be a part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look bad. It looks different, so different that it's throwing me off because of its existence.
Yeah.
Like
My initial thought was good. Like, my initial response to that was positive. It was one of those that, like, after I thought about it a little bit, I'm like, what are we doing there? Like, you know what I mean? Like, like, it's not that I don't want to be negative about something that I'm relatively positive about. It's just like my negativity doesn't come from a place like fuck them. My negativity comes of a, are you sure this is gonna work for you? You know, sort of thing.
They must have sold a lot of those Lego sets. Because
yeah, exactly. Like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And then the other game what was the second game you talked about?
I did mention about the Harry Potter Quidditch Champions.
Yeah, bullshit. Absolute bullshit. More bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just lay out some things real quick before we get into more of this. We have talked a lot recently about trust between a developer and your players, and there just isn't any right now, you know? And so my problem was there was a few games here that I would possibly have gotten excited about if it weren't for the fact of who's making them and why. Monster Hunter Wilds, prime example of what I'm talking about. I loved Monster Hunter World. I have hundreds, if not thousands, of hours into multiple different versions on different like places of Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter World was a great game. I hated Rise, but Monster Hunter World was a great game. I've been waiting for a follow-up to Monster Hunter World that brings me the same joy that World does. And Wilds, I would love to believe is that thing, but it's made by Capcom. And it is made in the world now that we have been talking about this for a while. Where, like, all of these companies have been talking about going more games to servicey, more silly. And Monster Hunter, unfortunately, as good as that game is, it is ripe for, like, microtransactions, for battle passes. It would be very easy to do that with that series. Very easy. Like, it's not like that, but there's already kind of a gear score, you know, because you can't fight the later monsters till you make certain pieces of armor and get them to certain levels. It'd be very easy to then monetize that. There's a lot of monetizable elements in Monster Hunter that just makes me nervous now. I don't have any faith in these companies to release games like they did with Monster Hunter World, where, if everybody remembers, Monster Hunter World came out, then it got a significant monster add to the game every 2 to 3 months until a year later when it released one $20 DLC, which added basically its own sequel to the game, which then they added more monsters to incrementally for 2 to 3 months. That's amazing. You know, that's the model I want to see. I don't trust them to do that model, especially not with what happened with Capcom and Street Fighter 6 and everything that's happened with that. Again, the Dragon's Dogma thing, the microtransactions are stupid and don't really matter, but the fact that they like didn't tell anybody about them, then boom, they were in there. I'm real scared we're going to get that shit with Monster Hunter, and we're going to start seeing those games. Like, they have been talking about this for a while, that the games as service and the microtransactions, that's going to be the way that the industry is going. We've only actually seen a couple of games actually do that yet, but remember, everything has a 4 to 5 year development cycle, usually at least. The smallest games have a 4 to 5. So now that they've been talking about it for 2 to 3 years, now we're going to start actually seeing the games come out that have this shit. Very afraid Monster Hunter Wilds is that next thing. And most of these games are that next thing, you know?
Yeah, and that's something that, you know, Capcom, when we've talked before about like Square Enix, you know, has been not necessarily doing great so much lately. And they're directly compared to Capcom, who is just record quarter after record quarter after record quarter. But that's because they're jamming those microtransactions into everything.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And I don't know. I don't feel like... I think a lot of the stuff that I saw at this show is just ripe for that kind of shit. You know, Mecha Break, The First Descendant, all of these things that I saw, I was like, this is ripe for monetization. You know, and they haven't talked about any of that. And I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop on all of these. Maybe it never does. Maybe it doesn't drop. But they've got me in a position as an industry where I'm just expecting it now. The only things, like, same with Civilization 7. I'm a triple X guy, a 4X guy. I like the 4X genre. I played Civilization 6. I'm kind of excited for 7. I'm waiting for that to have microtransactions too. You know, like, I'm waiting for everything to go that route. And that's annoying, especially since the Sid Meier stuff, I'm pretty sure, is all owned by EA, which is known for this shit. So, like... Is it going to turn into, is Civilization 7 going to be The Sims 4? What that turned out to be? Because I don't want that in my 4X games, you know?
Yeah. I'm not quite sure overall, like...
Same with Quidditch Champions. I mean, that's going to be... That's going to be a microtransaction.
It's going to be
festiva.
A microtransaction fest.
It's going to be Fortnite of Quidditch is what it's going to be.
Especially given the fact that they literally made a Harry Potter game and wrote into the game that they weren't having the one other thing synonymous with Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. And immediately, basically afterwards, they're like, oh, by the way, this is a whole separate game.
Yeah.
Not because it was just too much work to implement it as such, guaranteed.
If I recall correctly, Avalanche came out and said, basically, like, we were told we can't put Quidditch in our game. You know,
well,
like...
that's WB-ass WB shit.
Yep.
So, I mean, hitting a couple other ones, other things here. Blumhouse, the company that makes all the spooky movies, is now going to be making spooky games, and they announced like 7 games that are in development. Which
I saw those.
I have to say, bold choice of jumping immediately into game development and having 7 projects in the loop.
It is. This show was a lot of horror, and another thing that, I don't know, maybe I'm alone. I am sick of anime games with weird penis monsters in them. And there's just so many anime games with penis-looking monsters at this show. It was mind-blowing to me. Like, I was like, man, just everything has, like, a weird thing coming off of it, you know? Like, I don't know. I'm just... So much anime. Like, any anime fans out there should be, like, loving this. Or maybe you're sick of it. Like, let me know in the comments, because... every game, like, I was scrolling on Friday night, you know? I was just scrolling through Friday after it came out, and just every game was anime art. Every fucking one, you know? And then when I go into them, the monsters were all those, like... Because there's, you know what I mean? There's, like, 2 types of anime monsters. Like, one of them's, like, more of the body horror thing, which is what I'm talking about. And then the other ones are kind of more traditional. And, like, everything looked like the body horror monsters. And I'm just like, oh, my God. Like, there's so much anime... and so much body horror. Like, what are we doing, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I was a little bit like, yeah.
And it's funny because, you know, horror games kind of had their moment a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And now everybody's like, oh, that's it's trend chasing, I feel like. Oh, everybody loves horror. Let's do horror. Let's do horror. Quick. But they start doing that when the trend is already there, and then it's going to be a horror overload. That's what ended up happening when horror games fell off. Like, what was it, like 10-15 years ago? Nobody was buying horror games anymore because there were just too many of them.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same thing with the anime. Like, it's like anime is really popular. Let's make a ton of anime games, and now there's just gargantuan amounts of anime coming out.
You want to talk about cool shit?
Yeah, let's talk about
Let's talk about cool shit. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers
Yeah, super excited about this. Anybody out there who saw this trailer, like, would have been like, oh, they made a game specifically for Zach. Like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And then it's also a 2D beat 'em up. Oh yeah. Although I will say it looks a little bit more akin to the Battletoads remake that they did.
Yes.
Where there is a lot of like genre defining stuff in there. Like there's some standard beat 'em up stages, and then it switches to like, oh, now we've got like a race stage, and now we've got like a Megazord stage, and their different stuff. It'll be interesting to see how they switch that up. That doesn't always work in games, in my opinion. But I'm very excited for that. I think that could be a lot of fun. And I love a good 2D brawler, man. We've talked about that a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were... it was one of the very few things in all of these shows that when we saw it, we were actually excited for.
Yeah.
Which is really, really a testament.
That's rare,
really
man.
A testament to everything going on.
That's rare.
I'll tell you, there's another thing that wasn't necessarily so much a game itself that I thought was really cool. So the people who did Among Us, Inner Sloth,
cool. Yeah,
they got together and actually have like an indie game fund now to help people get off the ground. And their inspiration was all the closures that happened and closures and cancellations. They basically are using their success to kind of get things out there. They showed like 6 or 7 games that are being funded with this Outer Sloth initiative that they have.
Yeah.
That was just so cool. So cool that, an indie company, at least they're still independent.
Yeah, they are.
Had this crazy success, and they straight up said, we want to do something with our success. Let's not make another game necessarily. Let's not, turn into this money-grubbing company. Let's take a minute and actually do something with the success that we have to better gaming as a whole. And I think that was absolutely fantastic.
I think it's great too. And isn't this like
focus?
It's like a program for like funding indie games made by people who are out of work, right?
Basically,
yeah.
Their focus is sustainability. It's basically run like a charity nonprofit sort of situation. I pulled up their site. Independent, no investors. It's all donations and basically the money that they are pumping into it. Nobody's acquiring anybody. There's no stake in anything. It's just like rerouting the success to other people.
Basically, it's allowing unemployed people to have an employment and make a game. It's a benefit win-win, too, because if Outer Sloth produces a game with these out-of-work people, I am sure that Inner Sloth, like, there's still going to be a cut of that going back, if at least a tax write-off, So, like, this is the kind of things that companies can do to, like, help people and still make money. It's not hard. You just have to stop being greedy for 10 seconds and realize that you can actually make money off charity and nice things that you do, Right. This is going to be incredibly good for Inner Sloth, too. And that's not me knocking them. I'm not knocking them at all. I think this is great. I think they're like, let's weaponize the people who are out of work, give them jobs, give them money and security, and also make ourselves more sustainable as a company. This is really smart, and it's really intelligent, and it's something that all these companies should be thinking about. Mm-hmm. Because, the tax breaks alone on charities and that sort of thing is going to help them.
Absolutely.
Like even if they don't make a dime off anything that Outer Sloth produces or whatever, like that's going to help their company. Like that's the kind of stuff that these companies should be doing instead of just putting people on the streets and then getting on our leather jackets and talking about how we have to make hard decisions, which we'll talk about later. And like that kind of shit is obnoxious. Your $1 trillion companies, you can do something, okay? You can do something. All right. So what else do we want to talk about at Summer Games Fest?
There was actually only one more.
Okay.
It was the one, you know how I am when it comes to new IP. And there's one that actually kind of got my attention, I think more so due to like its art style and the mystery around it. Mm-hmm. Wanderstop.
Yeah, that does look interesting.
Yeah.
That looks really interesting.
It's a cozy game where you basically keep a tea shop running. Mm-hmm. But there's something alluded to in that trailer that it seems to be like a twist on the genre, almost like there might be some sort of like arena combat component to it or something.
Something weird.
I think that is going to be very
well, and
interesting.
You saw who makes it, right?
Annapurna.
Yeah, but even more than that, it's Annapurna Interactive's publishing it, but it's the Stanley Parable creator, David Rendon, which Stanley Parable is a crazy-ass game.
Yes.
I'm not recommending anybody go out there and play it, but watch videos of it. It's fucking hysterical. So this is really interesting. I'm very interested by that game. That is a good one to point out. I do want to bash some more stuff, if you don't mind.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Anybody out there thinking about buying that new Star Wars game, I beseech you to not. They already have like said that they're like cutting out pieces of the base game so that only premium buyers can play it. Like they're already piecemealing that game to you. It is going to only get worse because it's a Star Wars IP, and everybody has been pissed about it, and they basically are like, it's Star Wars, you'll buy it. And that's a big problem. Like that game has to fail. If that game doesn't fail, they're going to think, well, as long as we attach Star Wars to it, we can do whatever we want to you. You know what I mean? I really feel like that game's a linchpin for stuff, because if that does good, then that means that's going to translate to these business people. That IP equals money no matter what. Doesn't matter what we do to them. They're going to buy it, and that's not good. That means every Star Wars game from here out is just going to be a microtransaction, fuckfest, like without a doubt. So you have to not buy this game. like seriously.
Well, remember, too, when the exclusivity contract ran out on the licensing for Star Wars, it was like the next month. What was it, 2 years ago or something? Everybody's got a Star Wars game in development.
Yeah.
And we're already too late. It's going to happen.
Well, that's the thing, though. We got to vote with our wallets, like, at some point. That's something that's bothering me. It's like there's got to be a point where we stop buying this shit. Because as long as we're buying it, they're going to do it. They're going to do it.
Fair.
And what the fuck is Arkham Shadow? You did a VR game. So everybody wanted a follow-up to Arkham Knight. You gave us Arkham Knights, which is in an alternate dimension. Even though it makes sense to be in that world, it's an alternate dimension where that's not what happened. Okay, so what's the follow-up then? Suicide Squad, where you fucking killed Batman, even though he was kind of already dead, but okay, he faked his death, and now he's alive, and now he's evil, and now he's dead. Now we're doing Arkham Shadow? What are we fucking doing? Not only are we doing Arkham Shadow, but it's only on the Meta headset? I don't want to play that game. I don't want anybody. That game's fucking dumb. What in the holy shit is Rocksteady doing? They are just like step by step ruining their own fucking shit.
I don't know if they're actually involved with that, though.
I mean, they would have to be. It's got the Arkham before it, right? Like, I know it's WB, but they would have to have some sort of input. You would think.
You would think, but I don't know. I don't recall there being any logos or anything associated with it. Because if I remember correctly, what was there was an Arkham prequel. I can't remember what it was called. There was an Arkham prequel game. It's the one that like
Arkham Origins.
Arkham Origins. Yeah, I don't think that was Rocksteady.
That wasn't Rocksteady. No, that wasn't. But I mean, still, like, I don't believe for a second that Rocksteady didn't have input on that.
That's true.
You know,
yeah, they've
it's a
been the ones
Rocksteady
doing
style game. Yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. Other than that, like, everything else that I saw, I just don't trust that, and that's the problem. Like, everything else is like, this is gonna be, you know, whatever, you know. Then we've got the other two big announcements are the Amazon one that ended up turning out not that bad is coming to console. What was that called? New World. That MMO is coming to console. And then you've also got Valorant coming to console, which will be a big deal, I think.
Yeah.
Personally, that's a big esport right now. I think that'll be a big deal. And then other than that, didn't really have anything. You had Kingdom Come Deliverance trailer 2, which looks good. Those games are good. Well, the first game was great. And then a bunch of anime weirdness. So I'm done with the Summer Games Fest unless you have something else to say about it.
No, that was basically it. I'm actually thinking here, moving right along to the Xbox showcase, which is
let's do it.
Pretty fresh in my mind because I finished watching it right before I came down to do this. I am not impressed, except for one
really
single
solitary
thing.
Okay, all right. I can't wait to get into this, but I'm really not impressed.
So I'm kind of sad that they did this right from the jump because I wanted something else to look forward to. But Doom: The Dark Ages is real, and it was one of the first things that they showed off. This shit looks cool as fuck. It's exactly what it was rumored to be. A Doom game in medieval times. The Doom Slayer's wearing a frickin' pelt. You got a shield that's actually a buzzsaw. One of the weapons is a machine gun that you take a skull and grind it down and shoot the skull pieces as bullets. It is metal as ever living fuck. There's a mech that you get into and fight demons like 700 feet in the air. Flying on dragons and shit. I was so excited. And it sucks because I remember there were talks of something being shadow dropped during this. There was a lot of heavy rumors about something being shadow dropped, and I was hoping and praying that this was going to be it. Because no lie, if that would have shadow dropped, I would have canceled on you this evening. I'll be honest, I would have canceled on you. I would not be doing this right now.
Fair. I accept it.
But, you know, the shadow drop was something else entirely to flip it right over to some stupid shit. They gave the shadow drop. The shadow drop was just a throwaway line when they were showing the Starfield Shattered Space trailer. So the first actual official expansion. Right. So they're going on and on and on about it and everything. And they present all the information. It's coming out later, but then the trailer's not over, and it's like new content, more this, more that, available now, or like later or whatever. It's, okay. And I actually turned to
that game that nobody wants to play.
I turned
content for it.
I turned to Kayla. It was when they started this trailer. I was like, I literally forgot that this game even existed.
Yeah. Okay, so let me talk about those two things. I specifically watched the Doom trailer because I knew you'd want to talk about it. So, I definitely watched it. Trailer looks great. Don't disagree with you on that. Again, I am very scared, though, that this will have shit in it that we do not want it to have in it. That is something that makes me very nervous about all of this stuff. Is I really hope Doom doesn't do that, but at the same time, I am at a point where I don't believe we're not going to see fucking microtransactions in everything. And I am very scared that Doom is going to be like, oh, some of the guns are locked behind this, or there's a battle pass, or there's some sort of weird end game to it. And like, I hope that's not the case, because the trailer looked good. But I do want to just say this before we go any further. Everything I saw at the Xbox Game Show is just poisoned by that thought process. Like, everything. There was nothing I could truly get excited about. Even the stuff that I saw that I was like, this looks cool. State of Decay 3 had a trailer. It actually showed some gameplay. I am very scared that game is not going to be like a better State of Decay 2. That they're going to completely change what that is. And it is going to then have all sorts of weird transactions and bullshit in it. Fable. Well, I'm sure we're going to talk about that at some point. Again, still very scared that we are going to have bullshit in it. Like, everything at this show, for me, was poisoned by the fact that I feel like I'm going to be paying for it if I want to play it from now until the end of time.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. I mean, even this is something that I would have put in the newsy bits anyways, and I just saw it when I pulled up this article here to share, so we had this document all up at once here. Apparently, shortly after the announcement of Doom: The Dark Ages, it was confirmed that it's coming to other consoles. So, okay. So Microsoft is nudging a little bit more in the direction of putting their games on other consoles. It's going to be on PlayStation. That said, they asked why Doom gets to be on PlayStation 5 and not other games. The response was, it's a franchise that I think everyone deserves to play. So if you read a little bit between the lines there, they decide what they think is either going to be a good seller and put it everywhere else, or they get to pick and choose, well, we think that it's okay, or you deserve to play this somewhere else because it's going to be on Game Pass. Our people will have already gotten it for free. Somebody needs to pay for it. What about those PlayStation folks over there? That's how it comes across. And what's funny is it would have probably been an innocuous, just throwaway quote had everything else not been going on as it has lately.
I really feel like, we're looking at Xbox has enough to control the content now. Like, they have enough companies to control the content in a lot of ways. So, like, this is the situation we're in now. They're going to drip feed it to the ones they want to and not to the other. And this will make people pay. They're going to start leveraging things against other people, and it's just super frustrating. Super, super, super frustrating.
And honestly, just because we've talked about it very briefly here and we're talking frustrating, the Fable trailer, I was expecting it to be at this show. It's got a release window of 2025. Do you remember when this game was announced back in, 2020, with a release in 2021 or something like that?
I think it was like 2019 or 2018. I feel like
it was earlier.
Wasn't it before COVID, if I recall correctly?
Yeah, that's what's driving me crazy. The ad where the fairy got eaten by the toad.
Yep.
We talked about that for a while. I mean, at least we kind of got some gameplay, just the tiniest bit of gameplay. But as it stands right now, it's set for the window of 2025. I'm going to plant my flag firmly in the ground right here and now. We're not seeing that game until 2026. There's no way.
That's fair. Aside from that, I do want to talk about this trailer. Since you've brought it up, and it's on the forefront now, I have a real problem with what they showed here. I don't know how many people out there have been original Fable players. Fable 1, Fable 2. Did you play the first two?
Funny enough, I never played the first one. I started with 2.
Okay.
So I played 2 and 3. I played 2 and 3 though.
3 was rough, but 2 was
3 was rough.
2 was really good. 2 was really good.
Yes.
To me, the trailer they showed made this The Witcher with comedy. They showed one thing that, okay, this is hard to explain, but like the feeling of Fable to me was you could literally do anything in that game. There was a story and there were quests, but you could buy any store, you could buy any piece of property, any house, you could move in, you could rent it, and then every NPC was killable / romanceable / friendable / everything. They didn't talk to you though. It was almost like sim speech. Like you do a little emote around them and then they get like a heart above their head, or they wouldn't get a heart above their head, and you slowly romance them, and then you could eventually marry them and have kids with them. The simplicity of the interaction made it possible for them to really like anything you want to do, you know, you can kind of do. It also gave it kind of like a weird charm to it. This just didn't have any Fable charm whatsoever, in my opinion. We had a character who was a woman, which I think there'll be character creation. I don't think it's one way or the other. But like, then the characters she was talking to, like all of them are voice acted. So you're telling me all of those characters, like every character, like I don't believe every character is romanceable. I think what we're gonna get is we're gonna get like a Skyrim or like a Starfield or like these kind of games where like there's companions, you can find them, you do a certain quest or you pay them a certain money and they'll follow you, you can romance them, but those are the certain ones. It's not the freedom of the original Fable or Fable 2. You know, Fable and Fable 2 also had the ability to truly like be bad or good or in between in any way, shape, or form that you wanted. You know, you can make those decisions. I don't like, this game didn't show me any of that. This game to me looked like Comedy Witcher. That's what it looked like. Like it didn't look like, they didn't give me any of that. The world is completely open like Fable did, you know? And that to me kind of lost that touch, you know? Mm-hmm. I would have liked to them show off a character creator too. Like I have no problems with them like using one character as the main character. Just show us that we can make our own character. They didn't show that. They showed one standard hero, right? That was it. Like, so do we not get to create our characters anymore in Fable? Do we not get to like romance any character in Fable? Like, I don't know. It did not look to me like you had the freedom that you had in the original Fables. It looked to me like they were using Fable to create a Witcher type game, and I don't want that, you know?
You know, I almost feel like if there's one phrase that can kind of encapsulate this Microsoft conference, it's tone deaf.
Yeah.
Because, you know, granted, they're the ones who were shutting down studios and everything,
yeah.
So I don't know as if it would be a good look for them to be like, look, we're going to show you a lot of games, but, you know, we're really sorry for what we had to do or anything like that. I don't think they would have done that on this stage. But, you know, they just can't read a room because we had hardware announcements. During this.
Yeah.
It is the single solitary stupidest thing that I have seen them do in a while.
You know, we thought it was going to be handheld, and it was the dumbest.
We thought it was going to be the handheld. Dumb. So they went out of their way to hype up the fact that first they're working on their next generation of consoles. They needed to let you know that right from the jump. They're working on their next generation of consoles. Didn't show a handheld, which I think would have moved the needle for a lot of people. Right. But in the wake of, what was it, a month ago, the thing coming out that PlayStations are outselling Xbox consoles 3-1. Mm-hmm. They announced not one, not two, 3 different versions of the console. Granted, we knew about the one anyways, the terabyte Series F. Mm-hmm. But we got 2 more Xbox Series X consoles.
Right. Right.
We have one terabyte one in white that doesn't have a disk drive for only $50 cheaper than the terabyte model that does have the disk drive, that is currently available for sale with no other change in specs whatsoever. But if you want to shell out not $500 but $600, you can get the 2 terabyte console that comes with a disk drive. They're going to be gracious and give you the disk drive there with that, and it's going to come in a fun speckled with green color scheme that has absolutely no other improvements otherwise. What in the actual fuck is going on?
Yeah, you speak about tone deaf. You look at Phil Spencer's, just should have been booed out of the building for those comments about closing studios. You have the 2 most egregious studio closings of probably the entirety of these layoffs, and you shouldn't even be mentioning it. You shouldn't even be fucking.
Well, no. He didn't mention it. That's what I was saying. He didn't say anything about that. I think it would have been a very bad look had he got up on the stage and said something. So I don't think he could have.
Directly on stage, he said that I have to make hard decisions and I don't like it sometimes.
That was like in an interview or something, but I didn't see that in the
Maybe I
showcase.
misread. I read that was directly in the showcase that he said that.
Yeah, I didn't see it in the recap that I watched of it.
All right.
But I mean, oh my God! If he did,
I thought he said it at the stage. That's why I was like, "Wow, are you kidding me? Shut your fucking mouth, dude."
Yeah, because we were thinking. I was thinking that their "and one more thing" was going to be the handheld, or at least how they did with the I think it was with the Xbox One. They did a fun little splash trailer thing that was allusions to what the new console was, but they didn't announce what it was. It was just a lot of sleek shots, very zoomed in and dark, so you couldn't really see anything. I thought that's what the "and one more thing" was going to be. I mean, they just announced their next Gears of War game. Overall, there was nothing really here. I mean, there was... Sure, we saw more from Avowed. That's coming out eventually. A lot of games just coming out eventually. Between this show and the other show, I mean, there's a lot of 2024, but we're not going to put a solid date on it, which basically means 2025, or they'll say 2025, which probably either means holiday 2025 or 2026. Not a whole heck of a lot that we're going to be getting here soon. Some of them don't even have dates.
Yeah,
we're going back to the days of here's a sizzle trailer just telling you that it exists.
Right. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. There was a lot of those.
Yeah.
And I did look it up. It was not at the actual show. It was on IGN Live, either directly after it when he was being interviewed.
What a fucking asshole.
Yeah, that's why I got it confused, because he did say it this weekend, and he did say it on a broadcast, but it was a broadcast on IGN Live. So when it cuts from the game show back to IGN Live, he was doing an interview and basically said that some people just gotta get fired sometimes. And I don't necessarily disagree that sometimes some people gotta get fired. I don't believe you as a company should be doing it when you promise not to, basically. Back to the consoles, to bring out 3 new consoles when you're not selling them is real. I almost feel like it's a flex. I almost feel like they're saying we don't even need to sell these.
That
we have everything. We don't even need to sell these. We're gonna make 6 more of them because why not?
And that's what's super crazy about this is just thinking about it. In a normal cycle, typically you have the launch version of the console, your slimmed down hardware revision, and eventually you'll have a pro model. At most, you're ever going to have 3 versions of these things floating around.
Yeah.
Microsoft currently has 5.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
I think we need, as an industry, just to stop looking at it as there being a normal cycle anymore. I think that cycle is gone.
Yeah.
I think too many companies are owned by one company. You also have other companies that are just staying afloat by like finding niches like Nintendo. I don't think that we're going to be seeing like standard generations at all anymore, really. We're going to be seeing these. You're going to have Xbox is just putting out different versions of itself constantly. You're going to have Sony like rigidly sticking to the past when it shouldn't exist, and you're going to have Nintendo trying to stay relevant in an increasingly handheld world. But yeah, I think, to echo it, I feel like Xbox Game Showcase, again, 100%. There was very few like release dates, no concrete. There was not even tons of concrete windows. Your Fable was sometime in 2025. Your Doom was sometime in 2025. Even Avowed, which is coming out this year. They maintain it's coming out this year. Did not give us a release date. Just said sometime this year. There was very few dates. This harkens back to me to that Xbox showcase that we watched, that we lambasted not too long ago, where we had all those trailers with absolutely no release dates, and we still haven't seen half of those games, like Fable, like The Outer Worlds 2.
What about like Everwilds?
Everwild is it doesn't even
got announced 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's just gone. I mean, all their creative directors are gone. I do want to talk about another game, which is the Joanna Dark, the Perfect Dark reboot.
Oh yeah,
it looks like Cyberpunk to me. Doesn't that look like Cyberpunk to you?
A little bit.
I was watching that like, there's no way this game works like this. Like, I really felt like I was back in the days of Cyberpunk where they were showing me a trailer that can't possibly be real. You know what I mean? Like, they had just animated it. And also, stop making parkour first person. Please, I don't want to do parkour in first person. I don't want to do that. I don't know why anybody does. I don't want a third Mirror's Edge game. I don't want that.
Right.
Like, it's just motion sickness. The video game. I don't want that shit. I don't want to climb a pipe in first person, or like jump from building to building and try and gauge distance without peripheral vision. Like, I don't want to do that, Plus, like, half of the action in that game was like kicking and punching and stuff. I'm like, I don't want this to be first person. Just make this a third person game at this point. Like, this doesn't even make sense for a first person game. The Joanna Dark one, like, I know a lot of people got excited about it. It didn't look good to me. It looked kind of train wrecky. Like, it doesn't know what it is anymore. Like, its identity is lost. And again, a lot of the ways she was interacting with stuff around her and doing stuff, I'm just sitting there like, there's no way this game does all of this. There's no way everything that's being advertised in this 3.5 minute trailer is in this game in the way that they are saying it is.
Right. Yeah. I remember, what was it, like 3 years ago it got announced? And then everybody was like, where is it? Oh, Nobody knows. It's been canceled. Who knows? And then now it's just shown back up again. But I think that was another one of the ones that was like, eventually.
Yeah. We didn't get any release date. I really felt straight up fucking Cyberpunk vibes on Perfect Dark. Like I was like, this is animated just for us to get excited. Yeah. And there's no release date. There's no nothing on it. Like, there's no way. I don't believe that game is what it is. Did you want to talk about anything else on here, man? Because I gotta be honest, there was a couple missing from the show that I was surprised by. Like, we didn't see Outer Worlds 2. We certainly didn't see Light No Fire at either the Summer Games Fest or this, which surprised me. And yeah, like, I don't know. They did announce the Gears of War, the next Gears of War, and the next Call of Duty. I'm not really a Gears of War or Call of Duty person, so I don't know. Were you in any way, shape, or form excited for either of those?
No, I do think, though, there was one teeny tiny interesting bit that kind of grabbed my attention. I feel like a lot of people may have missed it, or it may have been a bit innocuous, but when they were talking about the new Call of Duty, because it got its own showcase at the end of everything, which I did not watch, but when they were talking about it, I believe they had said both Treyarch and Raven were working on
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
now they're not even rotating between the 3 studios. They have 2 studios at once getting on there in their desperate attempt to make this a yearly release every single year. Oh God!
I mean, we didn't. Did we get one last year? I didn't think we got one last year. I thought that was the first year in a long time we didn't have it annualized because they had just gotten purchased and they were restructuring.
I think it was an new. I think it was like the Warzone update or something.
Yeah,
like
they
that.
probably updated Warzone, but like, I don't think we're gonna see this every year. I mean, if they do. And you're right, that's super fucked up. I don't think we're going to see this every year. I think we're going to see both of those studios working on it for like every 2 or 3 years.
Modern Warfare 3.
Oh, we did get one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, you're right. We did get one. Yeah, it was the year before that we took off. Yeah, this shouldn't be annualized anymore. It's kind of ridiculous. Stop trying to make that happen.
Most
at
other
that
games
point, just make it a games as service, you know? Like,
Yes.
make it a games as service with a subscription fee once a year. Like, I don't understand why we're not doing that. Same with my sports games, like WWE 2K. I got to run out and buy the next one for $70 every year. Just make it annualized, man. Make it an annualized subscription that I got to pay into, and I get the new wrestlers because the game's as good as it's ever going to be. I know all you're doing is adding new, like, updating the models and shit, you know?
Right.
Like, just update the models once a year, you know? And add the new features that you're going to add and fucking call it a day instead of, like, doing it the way you're doing it because it's not sustainable. All right. Do we need to do news? Because I think this was all the news was this stuff, right? Did you collect any stories?
I collected 3 dumb stories that are actually pretty quick, so we can actually get through them super fast if you would like.
All right, that's fine. Well, we'll take a pause and then we'll do a quick news segment. We'll be right back.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our final segment, the news. Neil collects smaller news stories that don't necessarily deserve a talking point, but he wants to tell you guys about it. He wants to tell me about it. We want to riff about it, so he's going to go through them. He has 3 today. Take it away, Neil.
Alrighty, so these are pretty quick hits overall. So we've been talking a little bit about handheld gaming consoles. And MSI has basically been the low man on the totem pole when it comes to all of that sort of stuff here. MSI's Claw has not been doing great. No surprise. They've done multiple updates now, claimed it improves things. You know, last time it was something like 40%. This time the most recent update said it's going to improve it another 13%. It's great. Please buy it. Especially because MSI has confirmed they are in active development for the MSI Claw 2, 3, and 4. That's right. They have 3 more of these things planned when they can't get the first one figured out. Cut your losses, man. Just go on to 2. Just go on to 2.
What are the guys developing 4 doing? What we have is
Pictures.
every day we come in and we draw on this blackboard about things that may or may not come out in the future, and that we would put in it, and then we go home. We order some Chinese food, and then we go home. Like, what are they doing? Like, they're talking about technology that's 10 years off. Like, maybe we'll have some teleportation technology. It'll have teleportation features, so let's draw that into it.
Well, speaking of future tech, that actually is a nice little segue into my next one.
I'm glad I could help.
So, Sony, if you're familiar with the PlayStation 5 box, there's a very interesting tag on the front of the PlayStation 5 box advertising that the console will do 8K gaming. People barely have 4K gaming, but they're saying, hey, guess what, guys? 8K. This shit, it can do it. To date, there has been only one single solitary game that has launched with the capability of running 8K. As a result, Sony's actually taking the 8K sticker off the box.
Good.
Which
Good.
I don't think it should have been there in the first place. I mean,
We barely have TVs that can do that. What are you doing, man?
yeah, I think there might be like 3 consumer TVs out there that can
And
do it.
they're
And you're
like-
paying
they're
like
like-
$15,000 for them.
Right. It's like a $2,000, a $20,000 TV. Like, what are you doing with your lives if it's 8K? That's ridiculous. What game was it that was 8K?
I
You don't
looked
know?
it up. I looked
It'd be
it up.
funny if
I
it was
can't
like
remember.
Microsoft Flight Simulator or something.
That's the
Like it
crazy
wasn't
thing.
even them or something.
That's the crazy thing. Like, I could see it if they found a way to do it in. I almost called it Forza again. Gran Turismo. I could see if they did it in something like that. That would make sense. But it was some like random game that I had never even heard of. I
Nice,
looked this
nice.
up for this because I saw the news story and I'm like, is there even any 8K game out there? And there's one. And then the last one here actually kind of is a callback to one that we did a while ago. Remember how we talked about there being a Walmart storefront in Roblox?
Yes.
Yeah, there's going to be an IKEA storefront in Roblox.
I saw that. And they
they're
will
gonna
pay
have-
you to work it.
They are going to have, yes, actual.
I almost told my kid to get a
employees.
job. I almost told my kid, like, go work for Roblox, go work for IKEA and Roblox. That's what you could do on your weekends. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm working at IKEA. It's just your
I'm
little
working at
fucking
IKEA. Say
little
what?
avatar run around showing people tables. Yeah, they'll actually pay people. That's crazy. That is a crazy one.
But yeah, kind of like you'd mentioned, all of the major newsy things were kind of on hold over all this entire past week just because we've had the shows coming up. So all that's really kind of been on the forefront outside of, the normal trash negative things that are.
I want to ask you something, and I probably should have asked you this in the end of the talking point. But with the exception of Doom and Power Rangers, is there anything that you saw at either one of these shows that you weren't skeptical about, that you were super excited was coming out?
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
Right?
Not one.
What? Like I feel like this is what gaming has done to me over 5 years. I think this is the first time ever. Like, even when I was pretty hopeless about it last year, there was still games I was very excited about when we talked about this, when we did this show. This is the first time where I'm like, I don't give a shit about any of this. Like, the stuff that I would give a shit about, I don't care about, or I don't believe is going to be what they say it's going to be. Like, and the shit that, and the rest of the shit isn't that good or interesting to me. I don't know. I think that we can very clearly see the impact of the industry kind of being on shaky grounds a little bit. Like, with these layoffs, with some of the decisions that the industry as a whole has made for their content. I think this is the first time in a long time where I'm like, man, that looked rough. That's what you guys got? This is what you're bringing to the table? Because that was not good enough at all.
See, I think my problem is the fact that this stuff is being announced, and I know full well, regardless of what they tell me, it's going to probably be an extra year on top of that before it comes out. Like, there were things, no doubt, that were interesting. Like the Alan Wake 2 DLC that's like a Twilight Zone sort of thing, but like also brings in, control into the fold, which it's funny because they were talking about it and I had said something to Kayla is like, I will bet you there's going to be some sort of control crossover because there was an Alan Wake confirmed. Yeah, there's crossover between them, and sure as shit, it showed up as one of the things that they're doing. So I was like, but at the same time, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting. There was a lot of, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And it's almost like it's a combination of lack of trust overall, like you'd mentioned. Yeah. But also, I just feel like just overall like being jaded from everything that's happened in the industry so far. And I know there's going to be like Power Rangers. I know is going to be good when it comes out. I'm excited.
It's an indie
for
game.
That.
Of course, it's going to be good.
Yeah. the Doom Dark Ages is probably going to be good.
My fingers and toes crossed for you, man.
Well, there's a fun little nugget in there that I was when I was looking up information about it. It's going to put more of a focus on melee combat, which I think it was phrased in the way of it's going to be more focused towards sword and shield melee combat than guns necessarily. So
they only showed guns in the trailer.
They showed some guns in the trailer. Yeah, we know there's a shotgun. We know there's like
I
a
don't
machine
remember them
gun
showing
sort of thing.
any sword in the. Did they show a sword in the trailer? Where he fights with it?
There was a mace and the shield primarily that they showed.
only remember the skull crushing thing and the shotgun.
Yeah,
and then him throwing the shield around.
Yes. I mean, I've got hope for it because there hasn't been a bad Doom game yet since they restarted the franchise overall. Stuff like that, absolutely. But there's some stuff like outside of the smaller projects, there hasn't been a lot that's like, hey, this is going to be the thing. And this show, or these past two shows, are supposed to be the shows where we really see like, hey, this is what the rest of the year looks like. Sony's already said they're tapped out right from the jump.
Yeah.
We now know that Microsoft might have something, and we have yet to see what Nintendo is going to have to offer.
I don't think Nintendo's got anything.
I
think they got some indie shit
and
some port overs, and that's it.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a lot more ports. I think we're going to get one big new game announcement thing, but I would love to sit here and say, and they're going to show off their new console, but I don't think that's actually going to happen. I've been swayed finally, swayed in the opposite direction because they've just been focusing all their time porting stuff over, which could be indicative of them saving all of the new stuff for a new console, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Consoles anymore, how everything's rolling, it could be anything.
It could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. You're 100% right. And it is, I agree with you. It's a 50%. It's like one half of me is like, I don't trust anything of what you're saying to me. And then the other half of me is, jaded from just what we've already dealt with. So like everything that I saw was like, what are you going to put in there that's going to make me hate it? Like State of Decay 3, like, how many hours I have put in State of Decay 2 just on stream alone. You guys can go check. I have something like 100 hours just in streams on State of Decay 2 on YouTube, like recorded YouTubes. Think about how much I played that game by myself. I loved that game. I should be extremely excited that State of Decay 3 finally got another trailer. I'm not. I'm very afraid that they're going to take out the stuff I love. Xbox has had a way lately of like taking something you like and that's good and taking the stuff that makes it interesting out of it and then killing it, as we've seen with a lot of studios. You have like Fable. I'm sorry, Fable does not look like a Fable game to me. It doesn't even remotely look like a Fable game to me. It looks like The Witcher with jokes. And I don't want a Witcher with jokes. I want Fable. One of the things I liked about Fable was that it's completely freedom. If you took that out of it, it wouldn't be Fable anymore. So, like, I don't know what we're going to see out of this stuff. And, I don't know. All right, well, we're going to take one more break. We'll do plugs, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. Neil, would you like to plug anything?
Yes, sir. So we have our Return to Lasso stream coming up. Well, actually, if you're watching this, it would be tonight.
Tonight?
Barring any sort of shenanigans in the rescheduling of this, I did realize that I closed. So maybe it's happening. Maybe it's later. Yeah. Who knows? But it is on deck for it to be so. And honestly, I really hope it goes through. I really hope we get to do it
I'd like to play with
because,
you
like I
guys
said,
again.
this is one of the few segments of Halo. The one other one that I could pop off the top of my head that I had never done before, we did when we did ODST, because I had never played ODST.
I just keep trying to get this fucking game off my hard drive, and you just will not let me do it. Like, no matter what I do, I can't get away from this goddamn game. As far as I am concerned, we have shirts. We have a shirt now that you can buy. It's on wizardsrespite.com. You saw it in an ad at the beginning of the show. You also, there's links hopefully in the description below. Click on it, buy a shirt, support the studio that you like. Other than that, we have a ton of stuff, both TTRPG and video game related. Both coming out and coming. If you are a tabletop role-playing game fan or you are a video game fan, we literally have something on this channel for you somewhere. Just go back through old videos. We got tons of stuff. I guess the biggest thing I'd like to plug right now is two things. I am doing a bi-weekly stream with my daughter every other Wednesday, so it won't be this Wednesday, it'll be a week from this Wednesday, where we play a game together. Last week it was Slime Rancher, and you could watch us both play, and it was a lot of fun to play with her. I don't know what we're going to do this upcoming week, but it's Stella's summer stream. We're doing it bi-weekly. It's a lot of fun. Usually goes live around noon on every other Wednesday. And then Prelude to Divorce is back, and we are rumbling to 200 episodes, getting close to 200 episodes. As per usual, we're probably going to do a stream for 200. We don't know what it's going to be yet, but we are finishing up our hard mode playthrough of Oregon Trail. The ending I had to get very creative with. Hope you guys enjoy it, because my capture card failed.
No.
Oh yeah. So other than that, like I said, check out everything we have to offer. We have a ton of stuff. You guys can also reach us on Facebook at OmanGamingDH, on Twitter at OmanGaming9. You can join our Discord, links on the description below. Influence us in all of our shows from there. As long as you guys keep watching and listening, we will keep making it. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week with something. Pause. I don't know how I managed to do that. I was a second away from pausing, and I visibly picked my nose on camera. It's terrible.
That's impressive.
I was a second. I was bringing the sheet up, and you see my finger touch my nose. I was like, "Did I just do that? Did I just do that on camera?" Oh my god! Terrible, terrible. Well,
I'm always terrified.
Quantity, not quality. Quantity, not quality.
I am always terrified that I'm going to do something like that. There's been so many times where, either you'll catch me pause or mute myself if I'm gonna sneeze or if I have to for some reason yell upstairs or something. But I'm terrified one time that I'm gonna do something like that, or something absolutely disgusting is gonna happen, and it's just gonna be caught, and there's nothing you can do about it.
There are times when I realize I have to pick my nose. I can't walk away. You're talking, we're in the middle of recording. I can't walk to the bathroom, but my nose is requiring my finger to be inside it. Yeah. So I will slowly slide down on my desk to the point where my nose is just outside of view, and then I'll go to town. Which, if this makes it into a bonus, now everybody knows, if they see my face slowly going down, it's oh, he's going for the nose pick. I think there was a stream me and Phil were on. It's one of my favorite bits that I've ever done on, in the moment. We were on a stream. I think it was a Generation Zero stream. Me and Phil were playing the robot survival game thing, and I just straight up picked my nose on camera, and then realized I had picked my nose on camera. I was like, oh my god, I just totally straight up picked my nose on camera, and he just started laughing, and it somehow translated into this bit where I should start an OnlyFans where I'm just shirtless, staring into the camera. I get on shirtless and just pick my nose for 45 straight minutes and then walk away.
Somebody will pay for it.
Oh man, I really should. All right.